removed as requested. Population and society, conceptual framework and theories. 1. Introduction. Population is not just a biological aggregate, it is a social reality. Social demography is the study of the relationship between population dynamics, fertility, mortality, migration, and social structures, caste, class, gender, economy. Definition of population: a collection of humans in a specific geographical area. In sociology, it is the substratum of society. Definition of society: a web of social relationships, McKeever and Page. The nexus: society determines population trends, e.g., marriage age affects fertility, and population trends shape society, e.g., aging population changes family structure. Key concept: social capillarity, Arsène Dumont. Just as liquid rises in a narrow tube, individuals limit family size to rise in the social hierarchy, social mobility. Data interlink: India's population, tilde 1.42 billion, 2024 est. Replacement level fertility: India has achieved a TFR of 2.0, NFHS 5, signaling a stabilization phase driven by social changes like female literacy. 2. Functionalist perspective on population. Core argument: functionalists, like Talcott Parsons, Kingsley Davis, view society as a system seeking equilibrium. They analyze how population size, growth, and distribution contribute to the stability and survival of the social system. Key thinkers: Emile Durkheim, population density drives the division of labor. Kingsley Davis, theory of demographic transition as an evolutionary process. Thomas Malthus, often considered a proto-functionalist regarding natural checks. 10 key points: homeostasis, equilibrium. Functionalists believe society naturally adjusts its population to match its resources. If mortality falls, fertility will eventually fall to restore balance. Demographic transition. Role of social institutions. Institutions like marriage and family exist primarily to regulate reproduction and socialize the new generation, ensuring societal continuity. Division of labor, Durkheim. As population density increases, moral density, competition for resources rises. To survive without conflict, society creates specialized roles, division of labor, leading to organic solidarity. Malthusian checks as function. Malthus argued that positive checks, famine, disease, function to restore the balance between population, 2, 4, 8, and food supply, 1, 2, 3. When humans fail to exercise, preventive checks. Davis and Blake's intermediate variables, they identified social norms, like age of marriage, contraception taboos, as the functional mechanisms that regulate biological fertility. Migration as a safety valve. Migration is viewed functionally. It moves labor from areas of surplus, low wage, to areas of scarcity, high wage, benefiting both regions. Adaptive value of fertility. In agrarian societies, high fertility was functional because children were labor assets and insurance for old age. In industrial societies, low fertility is functional for mobility. Social stratification and population. Functionalists argue that differential fertility, rich having fewer kids, allows resources to be concentrated in training the most talented for high-status roles. Aging as adaptation. An aging population is not a crisis but a sign of a successful health system. Society adapts by changing retirement ages and healthcare structures. Normative control. Society uses norms, shame, honor, to control deviant population behaviors, e.g., unwed motherhood, that threaten the stable nuclear family unit. 3. Conflict perspective on population. Core argument. Conflict theorists, like Karl Marx, David Harvey, reject the idea that population growth is a natural problem. They argue that overpopulation is a myth created by capitalists to blame the poor for their poverty. The real issue is the unequal distribution of resources. Key thinkers: Karl Marx, critique of Malthus, concept of reserve army of labor. Friedrich Engels, overpopulation is inherent to capitalism, not nature. David Harvey, scarcity is socially constructed. 10 key points. Critique of Malthus. Marx called Malthus a plagiarist and a sycophant of the ruling class. He argued there are no universal laws of population. Every mode of production, feudalism, capitalism, has its own law. Surplus population. Under capitalism, labor is a commodity. Capitalists replace workers with machines, creating a relative surplus population, unemployed. This is not biological overpopulation, but structural unemployment. Industrial reserve army. Capitalists need a surplus population, unemployed people, to keep wages low. If there were no extra people, workers would demand higher wages, hurting profits. Poverty causes population growth. Unlike Malthus, who said population, right arrow poverty, conflict theorists argue poverty, right arrow population. The poor have more children because, in a capitalist system, children are the only source of labor, income for the proletariat. Resource distribution. The problem is not too many people, but too much greed. Example: the richest 1% own approximately 40% of global wealth. There is enough food, but the poor cannot buy it. Consumption theory. A child in the US consumes 50x more resources than a child in India. Conflict theorists argue we should focus on overconsumption by the rich, not overpopulation of the poor. Neo-Malthusianism as ideology. They view modern population control programs in the global south as a tool of Western imperialism to control the dangerous classes without sharing wealth. Gender conflict, feminism, population control policies often target women's bodies, e.g., forced sterilizations. Patriarchy and capitalism work together to exploit women's reproductive labor. Environmental scarcity. Environmental degradation is caused by capitalist industrial production, not just by too many people breathing or eating. Global stratification. The demographic burden is shifted. Rich countries exploit the labor of populous poor countries, outsourcing, while closing borders to migrants, anti-immigration policies. Thinker quote, the poverty of the people is not due to the niggardliness of nature, but the injustice of society. Karl Marx. 4. Symbolic interactionist perspective on population. Core argument. This micro-sociological view focuses on how individuals construct meaning around fertility, family, and migration. Population trends are the result of millions of individual decisions based on cultural symbols and social interactions. Key thinkers, Herbert Blumer, meaning arises from interaction. Irving Goffman, stigma and identity, e.g., childless couples. Gary Becker, rational choice, economic interactionism. 10 key points. Social construction of family size. Small family is a happy family, is not a biological fact but a constructed symbol promoted by the state, e.g., hum do hamare do. Meaning of children, traditional, child equals asset, hands to work, old age security. Modern, child equals liability, cost of education, emotional investment. Interactionism, fertility declines when the meaning of a child changes from asset to liability. Son preference as symbolism. In India, a son is not just a male child, he is a symbol of moksha, lighting the funeral pyre, and lineage, vansh. This symbolic meaning drives skewness in the sex ratio. Stigma of infertility. Interactionists study how society labels childless women as barren or incomplete, forcing them into IVF treatments due to social pressure. Goffman's theory of stigma. Reproductive decision making. Decisions are not purely rational. They are negotiated between husband, wife, and mother in law based on power dynamics and cultural expectations. Labeling overpopulation. Who decides a country is overpopulated? It is often a label applied by the urban elite to the rural.
poor, creating a panic that influence the policy. Migration narratives. The migration is not just a pull and push factor. It's about the America drama, Gulf money, and even the symbols of success that individuals strive for. Cultural norms on contraception. The use of contraception depends on how they are symbolized. If condoms are associated with promiscuity or disease, married couples may avoid them, and as is seen in many part of the rural India. Intergenerational transmission. The fertility behavior is learned. People often model their family size based on the interaction patterns. They observe their patterns, parent families basically. Redefining parents. A new reproduction techniques, surrogacy, sperm donations are forcing individual to interactively construct reconstruct the meaning of the mother and father, biological versus the social parents. New ideas, exam edge sections. Number 5, concept of social development. The core argument is social development is the evolution of society toward the higher level of quality, life, equity, and well-being. It goes beyond the economic growth GDP, while the growth is quantitative, means more money, and development is qualitative, means a better life. Key thinkers Amita Sen said that development works as a freedom. It's called capability approach. Then Muhammad ul Haq says give the HDI index, and James Dreze he focus on the public actions for the social security. 10 key points shift in focus. So we are moving the focus from national income to the human life, and the goal is not just rich economic but rich human lives. Number 2, capability approach. Amrita Sen saying that the development is defined as the expansion of human freedom. The freedom is a long live, and freedom to read, freedom to participate in the society, inclusivity. True social development must include the marginalized Dalit tribes or women. If the GDP rise but the poor getting poor, then this is called a distorted development. Complement component. So it include health, life expectancy, education, literacy, and standard of living, sanitation, and housing. Social justice, it emphasizes equity. Development is meaningless if it is concentrated on the hands of few hands. For example, Oxfam report, top 1% of Indian own 40% of the wealth. And next is 6, empowerment involves the giving people a voice to decide like what affect their lives. Democratic participation, sustainability, development that meet the needs of the present without uh, compromising the future. Brundtland report, social capacity, building trust, cooperation, and network in the society. Robert Putnam. Next is gender parity, means the key metric of the social development is the status of women, just not just as the mother, but as the equal citizen. Global indices, Human Development Index, GII, Gender Inequality Index, and Happiness Index. Critical examination of social development. Number one, core argument. The core argument is the narrative of the development is often used as a tool by the best global north to control the global south. What is called development often led to displacement, cultural loss, and ecological destruction. The key thinker, for example, we have Escobar. He gave the post development theory, says that the development is a discourse of power. Vandana Shiva, maldevelopment, saying that development kill biodiversity. And Rodney gives its views on how Europe underdeveloped Africa. Key points on critical analysis, development as a hegemony. So critics argue that the development is the extended of Colonism. The West define what is developed, industrial, urban, and force the rest of the world to cooperate, erasing the local culture. Number two, displacement induced development. In India, the development projects like dam and mines has been displaced million, and mostly the tribes. Nehru called dams as a temple of modern India, but for tribals, they are graveyards. Ecological crisis. The capitalist model of the development assumes infinite growth on the finite planet, leading to climate change, rich society, Ulrich Beck, loss of community. The modern development promote individualism, destroying the traditional society net of the joint family and village communities. Durkheim anomy. Not only this, there is a feminist critics say that the Esther Brock argued that the modern development is often lowered the status of the woman by ignoring their role in the subsistence agriculture and favoring male dominance cash economies. The trickle down myth.
Critical examination of social development continued. 6. The trickle down myth. The promise that economic growth will automatically trickle down to the poor has largely failed. Instead, we see jobless growth where GDP rises but employment does not. 7. Homogenization. Development creates a monoculture of the mind. Vandana Shiva. Global consumer culture erases local diversity. Everyone eats the same fast food and wears the same jeans, killing cultural distinctiveness. 8. Debt trap. Developing nations borrow massive funds for development projects from institutions like the World Bank, IMF. They often get trapped in debt cycles, eventually losing their economic sovereignty and policy independence. 9. Urban bias. Development resources are disproportionately concentrated in cities, e.g., Smart Cities Mission. This leaves rural areas, Bharat, neglected, leading to distress migration and the collapse of the agrarian economy. 10. Bureaucratic control. Development programs often treat people as passive beneficiaries or mere numbers in a database rather than active participants in their own progress. 7. Extra edge. Advanced perspectives, score boosters, use these specific concepts to differentiate your answer in the exam. A. Biopolitics, Michel Foucault. Concept. The modern state controls the population not just through laws, but through biopower, regulating the body itself. Application. Censuses, sterilization camps, and vaccination drives are mechanisms by which the state exerts power over the biological life of its citizens. B. Boserup's thesis, Esther Boserup, concept. Necessity is the mother of invention. Argument. Unlike Malthus, who argued population growth leads to starvation, Boserup argued that population pressure forces humans to invent better farming methods, e.g., shifting from extensive to intensive farming. Relevance. It explains the Green Revolution in India. Population pressure was a key driver for adopting new agricultural technologies. C. The demographic dividend versus demographic disaster. Dividend. The economic growth potential that arises when the working age population, 15 to 64, is larger than the dependent population. India has this window open until tilde 2055. Disaster. If this youth bulge remains unemployed, jobless growth, it can lead to social unrest, higher crime rates, and radicalization. D. Epidemiological transition, Omran, concept. As society develops, the primary causes of death change. Shift from pestilence and famine, infectious diseases like cholera, right arrow to degenerative and man-made diseases, lifestyle diseases like diabetes, heart attack. India's context. We face a double burden of disease. The poor still die of TB and malaria, while the rising middle class suffers from diabetes and hypertension. 8. Conclusion. The study of population and society reveals that demography is destiny, but only if it is managed through holistic social development. Synthesis. We must move beyond the Malthusian fear of numbers and adopt the Amartya Sen approach of capability building. Final verdict. True development is not merely about stabilizing the population count, achieving a TFR of 2.1, but about stabilizing the quality of life for that population. Quote, as Gandhi famously said, the world has enough for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed.